Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cornerstone Forum. I'm Erin Johnson, Assistant Vice President for Strategic Financial Initiatives in University Finance and Administration, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's forum. It's a pleasure to have you here today. Before we begin with today's events, I want to provide a few updates on the session itself, which we've listed on the next slide. We are recording this session so that it can be available to others after the event and so that you who are here in attendance with us can refer back to it as needed. All attendees have been placed on mute. We are going to be addressing questions throughout the meeting, and at every sort of portion break, we'll take the time to answer your questions. Please submit them for the presenters through the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll read them out from there. Finally, the meeting materials, as I've noted, including this recording, will be available online for download at the Cornerstone site after the forum. With that, I'd like to introduce Michael Gower, our Executive Vice President, CFO, and University Treasurer.
Thanks, Erin. Good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to have you join us today. There are over 300 of you who are logged on to get updates on all the various projects that we have going on. I will do some information on Cornerstone Roadmap and one particular project, travel and expense. Next slide. Vivian Hernandez, Senior Vice President for Human Resources, will give an update on the Human Resources Payroll Transformation Initiative. Next. John Fahey will add more information about the HR Payroll Initiative and also talk about Scarlet Journey, our constituent relationship management project, and the Student Experience Improvement Initiative. Next. So this is a view of the things that are currently underway, but I wanted to give a little perspective in that. I realized that the work on what is now the Project Cornerstone started almost 10 years ago at this time. It was at that point when we were assessing what would it take to really merge the units that were in the former Rutgers and the former University of Medicine Dentistry of New Jersey, whether it be around financial systems, HR payroll, and student systems. All of those led to this long project now that's about to hit 10 years. It didn't get named that for a while. The first projects out of the block were a single financial system, a single procurement system, and moving the former UMDNJ employees onto the existing PeopleSoft HR project or HR system. And that was quite enough. It was a big initiative. We were learning our way. We were dealing with what it really meant to combine two very big institutions at one time and gained a lot of experience from that. Since then, we have added initiatives as they've made sense, as they've been necessary in the procurement realm. Right now, I'll talk to you in a minute about SAP and Concur, our travel expense management system coming forward. The big systems of the moment are the Human Capital Management Cloud and the HR Payroll Transformation. Related to that is the Chart of Accounts Phase 2 project. Following that is the Student Experience Improvement Initiative, which has gone on for almost that 10-year period, and not just on systems initiatives, but on operational and organizational things as well. What is right now in front of us is the continued work on the Oracle Student Financial Planning Stabilization, and soon to come, the Oracle Student Management Cloud. And then finally, something that was added on as we identified a real need, and that was a constituent relationship management system, initially around enrollment management, in particular the application and acceptance process, And subsequently, and what is going live right now in Foundation and Alumni Relations, and then down the road athletics and other things. As has been the case all along, we've picked up projects along the way. Common Application was one that was initiated this past fall and has been very successful in both attracting applications to Rutgers, but also in the systems integration with the CRM product, which is from Salesforce. So a lot of things going on, and we'll be giving you more details throughout this forum. Next. So I'm happy to say we have one system that is soon to be coming live on July the 1st, and that is the SAP Concur Travel and Expense Management System. Now, many of you are already using SAP Concur as the online booking tool, and I've certainly found it to be very helpful in terms of getting both my options in terms of traveling, but understanding the things that are within policy and how do they work for me. This is extending that quite a bit to include an integration of the procurement card, travel card system into your whole travel, so that you'll be able to see a entire trip and all the pieces associated with that, the things that are direct billed, the things that are coming through the procurement or travel card, and will allow for expense reimbursement if not using the procurement or travel card. This also allows for pre-trip approval, as it does now, but will allow for that to happen as it is needed throughout the enterprise, and be a way to obtain cash advance requests if they are needed. It is going to be mobile ready 24/7 in this particular year, 366 days, but enhanced duty of care, integration, using the single sign-on, and so on. It should be a very positive move. We are at this stage beginning the user acceptance testing, that is to really run it through its paces with users who can identify last minute issues or last minute things that we could do better with it, building training materials, the integrations, reports, and then communication about it's going live. There will be user training. There will certainly be user training. Stay tuned for that as we get through the testing process and have the materials prepared and get closer to the go live date. But July 1, 2024 is when we expect to go live with that. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Vivian Hernandez.
Next slide. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today as we share some exciting news about our payroll HR transformation. Next slide. So what are we doing? What we are doing is we're transforming how Rutgers works individually and collectively. And there are three key elements to that transformation: people, process, and systems. And what do we mean by that? So we've engaged our people, that is, we've engaged the university community to work with us so that we can together simplify the way we work by standardizing and aligning business processes to better meet the needs of the university community. And we are designing these business processes and making decisions that allow us to maximize system capabilities. Next slide. So why is this transformation necessary? Modernization is critical to the success of our university. Under our current state, we have individual units, and we have about 1,500 of them working on the same processes, but doing them very differently. So our goal is to really be one Rutgers and to model the standardization and simplification of processes that will allow us to work more efficiently as one university community. And as we continue to update, we will improve upon how everybody at Rutgers manages time and how they get paid. Next slide. Under the future state, through this initiative, we will combine HR and payroll systems to create a more consistent employee experience. We'll align and redesign business processes to be more efficient and consistent. And we will implement the Oracle HCM Cloud software solution so that we will further transform the way we do work at the university. And I believe I'm handing it over now to my colleague, John Fahey.
Thank you very much, Vivian, and good afternoon, everyone. Max, if we can go to the next slide, please. So as Vivian talked about, the HR Payroll Transformation Initiative is not just about a system implementation. It is about people, process, and system. So when we talk about the process side, and again, this all involves the people side, and you'll see how many folks we've engaged. But when we look at the processes, some of the things we've already completed, our systems business process, which was really our technical requirements, meeting with all of our technical teams to go through the existing systems and understand the processes within the system. But we also concurrently with that, started looking at the functional business processes. And this is where we really started to branch out and begin our engagement with the people across the university. Over a course of 39 weeks, we had over 150 meetings in excess of 500 hours, with over 200 participants in those meetings, focused on the current state functional business process. So really looking hard at how does everybody do these jobs today? As Vivian said, 1,500 units across the university, all striving for similar goals, but getting there in different ways. So we wanted to understand how all that was happening today. And we have completed those sessions for the current state. So the next steps on the process side is we will bring all those folks back together beginning next month, and we will work with them throughout the course of this year on re-engineering those processes, looking at ways we can streamline, develop more standardization and consistency, and really enabling our staffs across the university to have more time to be more strategic, to spend more time with our constituents, with our stakeholders, and get away from process and task-oriented functions. So those efforts will begin next month. That for right now will be focused on phase one only. I want to talk a little bit about some of the future phases we have on this program. Again, this is a multi-year initiative, but right now, phase one is focused highly on payroll. That is our critical path right now. But you'll see over on the right-hand side there in the phase one box, core HCM, strategic workforce, benefits, compensation, absence, and time and labor. Those are all functions that are required to run a successful payroll. So those are all included in phase one, and those are the processes we're focused on this year. Next slide, please. Now, of course, part of this does involve a system implementation. So as we're looking at the business processes, we are building the new Oracle Human Capital Management Cloud system. We have completed what's called interactive design and prototype. So really going through and working with our core team and our design review board to look at how we're going to build the system. There's a lot of optional configurations available to us in the Oracle platform. So gathering folks together to help us understand the best way to configure that system that will meet the needs of our university. So we assembled about 80, a little more than 80 people from across the university, not just in central administration, but from all 4 chancellor-led units. And they comprise our design review board and work with us on those design and prototype sessions. We then moved into our configuration sprints, basically looking at the system module by module and how are we going to build it and actually working to build the configurations. So there was 11 weeks focused on multiple modules and configurations where we really went through the detailed requirements and began the review and design and started to build the system. We have completed the first phase of the system configuration. Again, back to the previous slide, looking at those phase one areas only, but that configuration is done. So where we are now is we're in the process of design confirmation. So what that means is bringing our core team and our design review board back in and spending 6 weeks with them and our implementation partners to go through every configuration in the Oracle system that we have built and get their validation and confirmation that it meets the requirements and has satisfied all the business needs that were presented to us during all these 39 weeks of sessions. Next slide, please. So where do we go from here? We're finishing up the design confirmation. Later this month, we will begin our systems integration testing. That will take us from April. We will work on that for the next 6 months deep into the summer. as we test all the configured integrations within and outside of the Oracle HCM system. As I just mentioned, we will kick off those future process reengineering sessions in May. And then we'll begin user acceptance testing, as well as our parallel payroll testing, which is a very, very critical phase and function and towards the success of this program. We will be running parallel payroll in both our existing PeopleSoft as well as the Oracle environment, side by side for 6 months. Again, to confirm and validate and make sure that payroll is going to run correctly when we go live next year. We are also preparing for user training. As I mentioned, that will begin later this summer, and working to continue the execution of our change management plan. So between the system and the processes and all the other changes coming, we know this will have a significant impact on our community. Matt Spinelli out of the PMO office, change management office, has assembled a change agent network. We've got about 250 people from across the university working closely with us to help communicate and build awareness of this program. First phase of our program is scheduled to go live January 2nd of 2025. And then once we go live with the first phase, we will move into the second phase. As we get into phase 2 of the project, we'll look at things like recruiting and performance management and talent management and succession planning and career development and learning. But right now, the focus obviously is on phase 1 with that go live date for the university. The university launch on January 2nd of 2025. So before we move on, Aaron, are there any questions?
Yes, John, I have one question so far. Actually, a couple more came in just now.
Sure.
The first is actually for Mike, so if we could bring Mike up as well. It's in the travel and expense portion.
Mhm.
Will the expense management system run concurrently with the new Concur system? This way we can ensure our faculty are getting reimbursed to avoid the issues the units had when Cornerstone went live.
Yes, that's the intent here, is that it is a integrated travel and expense management. So that the reimbursement process is integrated with it, and that'll be a key piece of it.
Thank you, Mike. What current HR payroll systems will be affected by this change?
All. So the primary one obviously being PeopleSoft. But this also will tie very closely with our Oracle financials. So the payroll is more directly tied into our financials as well as our budgeting systems. There are also multiple timekeeping systems in the university today, as well as some other shadow and third-party systems that are being used right now. The project team has identified those systems. We are working directly with those units to understand the impact to them going forward. So if anyone out there, if that person who asked that question or anyone else feels they are currently utilizing a system within their unit or department that does any kind of HR payroll work, and you have not heard from us yet, please let us know. But we believe we've identified all the existing systems out there, and they will all be impacted by this project.
Thanks, John. For Vivian and John, maybe I'll look to Vivian first on this one. Could you talk about what parallel payroll testing processes might look like for field HR liaisons who process transactions in schools and departments?
John?
Sure, Vivian. So for the folks out in the field, especially our HR liaisons and the many other folks who touch payroll, we are setting this up so we will run parallel testing, meaning that PeopleSoft will continue to be our live environment. Everyone will continue to get their actual paychecks and direct deposits and all other payroll transactions through PeopleSoft. At the same time, in a test environment in Oracle, we will run identical payroll processes. Number one, to ensure that gross to net is working. In other words, the paychecks are correct. When, as I said, we will also begin looking at the integrations, making sure all the payroll distributions and the costing and labor distributions are getting where they need to go in our other programs and other modules within Oracle. As far as the units go, we will be engaging folks to help us with the testing, to help us validate, because again, tens of thousands of checks need to be validated and looked at on a weekly basis. Obviously, as a project team, we can't do all that by ourselves. We are looking at the impact. There are some situations, and these are yet to be defined and fully confirmed right now, There are some situations where some folks in the units will have to work with us, as we will need some additional data entered in both places. We are looking to automate that and minimize that as much as possible. But there may be some cases where we need folks to work with us to get some additional data into our test environment. But we are trying to automate that now. So the greatest impact will be, we will be looking for folks to be available and work with us on the testing and validation.
John, if I can expand on that.
Please.
This parallel testing is absolutely critical piece of this. And as we note here, we have devoted 6 months to do so, or the payrolls over a 6-month period, because things change as seasons change, as months go on, and different situations present themselves. But we will be doing this gross to net calculation for every single solitary one of these. We'll be using automation tools, but we may need some help in understanding special situations in the field that might explain differences. But the fact is that we need to establish that within a very low tolerance that the gross to net calculation and the actual pay delivered from the new system matches what would have come from the old system within rounding error. That is a key part of any kind of payroll system implementation. And it's going to be a very busy time, very active time. The first ones will not work as well, and the second one and the third and the fourth and the fifth should progressively work better. But it is a way that we can ensure to the best of our ability that the pay delivery starting in January of 2025 will be correct.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to ask the group one more question, combining two, and then we'll hold the rest for later in the session. As a business person, I sometimes access PeopleSoft reports for informational purposes. So will business positions who are not processing payroll be able to access the new CRM for its reporting features? And a secondary question, but related, in terms of those day-to-day employee operations, which systems might be most applicable? So will there be access to those that aren't in there all the time? And what would be those features or aspects of the system?
So yes, the system will be accessible to everyone. Obviously, there will be different levels, of course, which is called security access. We define the role. So everyone will be granted access because it will be a university-wide system. Some folks will have more access into more things than others. As far as the viewing availability and what will be available to you, that will be based on your role. And we will be working with all the leadership across the university to identify on a position by position level who should get access to what information. The other thing that will be made available to everyone in the coming weeks here is more information around what is being moved into the new system and what is being stored somewhere else. In other words, we are not bringing every piece of historical data ever from the university into the new Oracle HCM system, but it will all be housed in a data warehouse for historical archiving, and you will be able to still see that information and pull some reporting on it. So some of that information is still further to be defined, but yes, even if you are not an everyday payroll user, you will still have access and be able to see it.
Thanks, John, and the other panelists. I will answer any questions that I see via text that you answered, such as that archive one, and then I'll hold the rest for our next break.
Okay, great. So let's shift gears here a little bit and move away from our HR payroll transformation. And we're going to talk a little bit about our student experience improvement initiative. Max, can you advance the slide? One more, please. So again, this is another multi-year program. As Mike said, this one also really started in its infancy about 10 years ago. And so we still have a ways to go. This is really focused on, more so on the student service levels, the students' needs. How can we improve the experience of students here at Rutgers University? And again, focused on multiple aspects. So some of the things that we've done over the last several years, back in the summer of 2019, we opened our student one-stop shops on all campuses, Camden, Newark, and New Brunswick. In 2021, we launched Oracle Student Financial Planning, which is basically a new financial aid system, university-wide for all students. We have gone back since 2021. We built a new reporting and analytic function within our new Tableau solution and really enhanced reporting and analytics out of that new system. And we're working on transitioning to our operational staff here at Rutgers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Right now, we continue to stabilize our student financial planning system. Again, these major systems, these enterprise-wide systems, these university-wide systems, especially in areas that receive consistent changes and updates from outside sources, take a full couple cycles to stabilize everything. One of the biggest focuses right now is we're testing the FAFSA simplification and how that impacts our current financial aid system and preparing for the next financial aid cycle. I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about that one in just a second. And then we're kicking off Student Management Cloud Business Process Review. So very similar to what Vivian and I just spoke about with the HR payroll transformation. These programs are not just about new systems. They're about people, they're about process, they're about improving the way we operate and improving, especially in this area, the way we service our students. So we will again go through a very intensive and extensive business process review in preparation for our new Student Management Cloud, which is another Oracle system that will get us towards our new student information system. And then our third release for the reporting analytics actually just went live last week. So that is now complete. Next slide, please. So FAFSA simplification. FAFSA is the free aid for federal student aid. It's a federal program for students to apply for financial aid. Those forms have been around for decades. They've not really been significantly changed in the last 40 years, and they're very, very complex for students and parents to complete. Back in 2021, Congress passed the Consolidated Appropriations Act. And part of that act was for the Department of Education to simplify those forms. And that simplification is to begin this year for academic year 24-25. This has been a very arduous and in many cases difficult process. The original target date for release of the new simplified forms was October of 2023, which would have aligned with our historical and expected schedules to start receiving that information for students to complete those FAFSAs and for universities to start getting that information. However, the DOE had some issues in their implementation, and that was delayed until December. But what happened then was that they had continued to have more issues, and they couldn't be ready by December either. So we received notice that was further being pushed back to January, already 3 months behind our typical schedule. At the end of the day, we just started receiving this information. Again, normally end of October, beginning of November, we start receiving all the information about the forms that were completed by students for financial aid. With all these delays, we did not start receiving those new records until mid-March, which really delayed us. We're several months behind now. However, the DOE has corrected most of the issues on their end. They're working very closely with Rutgers as well as many universities across the country. This impacts everyone to resolve any remaining issues, but they have finally started releasing those records to the universities. At this point, Rutgers has received over 70,000 records for student financial aid for academic year 24-25. So because this does impact all schools across the nation, Rutgers, we delayed what's called our priority filing deadline for students for early consideration. We moved that from February back to March. And the bigger one was our admissions deadline. Typically, our admissions deadline for students to accept offered admission is May 1st. That was pushed back to June 1st. So while there's still a lot of work to do and still a ways to go, right now we're holding with our June 1st. We do not want to push that back or delay that any further. And now that we're seeing these records coming in from the DOE and we're testing those as we speak, we believe that we will be able to meet that June 1st delayed deadline. Next slide, please. So in our student financial planning, we're coming into our third year here. As we enter into another cycle, wanted to take a look back at what's happened in the last couple of years, the first 2 years in our brand new system. So in fall 23 and fall 22 and spring 23, we packaged over 52,000 students in our new system. And then if we look ahead at fall 23, spring 24, the cycle we're just coming out of, that number went up a little bit, over 3,000. We actually were able to package over 55,000 students in our new financial planning system. Next slide. And if we look at what that turned into dollars, when we talk about the financial aid packaging, obviously not all students accept, not all those packages go through. But when we look at what that actually turned into, fall 22-23, we dispersed over 44,500 financial aid packages. And we dispersed to our students over $763 million through our new system. And then looking ahead at the following year for fall 23, spring 24, we dispersed over $791 million in financial aid to over 45,000 students coming out of our new system. Next slide, please. So as we look at what's coming ahead, our applications team launched a financial planning analytics project. Again, trying to get better information and more analytical capabilities out of our system. This was launched late last year using a new Tableau solution. The build financial aid reports and dashboards. And we work with all the campuses, going across all the chancellor-led units as well as our central administration units. We identified approximately 80 reports and dashboards that everyone really was looking for. We were able to take those 80 requests and consolidate those into 20 reports and deliver all those requirements, as well as establishing some dashboards that were able to greatly enhance our analytical capabilities looking at all this information. So the final phase of the project, again, we actually just did complete user acceptance testing late last week. And we will launch that information in about 2 weeks. That includes our satisfactory academic progress, our AGI awards, our over awarded, more reporting and dashboards on student loans, our honors program, our ERF program, our accelerated Bachelor of Science in Nursing, as well as some of our subpar registration. And then again, there were many other reports and dashboards established in the first 2 stages. The other thing we did was by working with the chancellor units during our user acceptance testing, we were also able to work together and identify several areas that we were able to go back and build even more enhancements into our dashboards and reports to even further improve them. Next slide, please. So as we transition to future state or to operational state, again, these new systems, when they go live, it takes like a couple cycles to go through to really work out the bumps, work out the kinks, and stabilize things. At the same time, we always have to have a realization that it also takes time for our internal staffs, not only OIT, but our enrollment officers, our financial aid officers, our campus partners, our unit partners, to really get used to administering a new system. Not just what they have to do on a daily basis, but there's a lot of maintenance and administration to keep these systems up and running as we move forward. So we're looking at things like our integration cloud service and how this system communicates with all of our other systems here at Rutgers. Understanding our BI publisher. Again, those reports and analytics we just spoke about were developed by our enterprise applications group in OIT. We are now working with all of our individual units to teach them how to create these reports and how to manage this BI publisher and how to support them for all of our constituents going forward. Understanding what's called Groovy scripts, which is custom coding and scripting language that's built into the system. It handles all of our enterprise integration tasks, our data integration, our applications integration, understanding how to maintain those going forward. Looking at supporting business processes and working with the campuses to continue to train and familiarize them with any changes as we move forward. And then also, of course, becoming more proficient in issue and ticket flow and resolution. We can move to the next slide, please. So the last thing I want to talk about for the student experience improvement initiative today is our business process review. Again, the next phase of our student experience program is the implementation of Student Management Cloud. We will begin that with a very, very extensive business process review. This is across the university. This will impact all campuses, all functional areas. And really, we all need to work together to better understand and prepare for the future state implementation of the new system and our overarching student cloud. Everything will be consolidated and integrated under Oracle for a new student information system. And very much like Vivian spoke about on the HR payroll program, we'll be looking to implement more common, efficient, much less complex processes across all of our university campuses. And again, this is very necessary for us to have a successful program. These re-engineered processes will also allow staff to focus on higher value-add work, spend more time working directly with the students and supporting their success and not managing overly complex and duplicative processes and tasks. So right now we are in project planning, working with our third-party partners and implementation partners to understand who will be engaged in this process. We'll then work with leadership across all the units to identify the individual participants and really get that project foundation built. So some of the activities in this current phase are the project plan, developing our resource plan and our roles and responsibilities, and getting our stakeholder engagement program underway and developing those matrices, and also establishing our governance models and our committees. But we are in planning right now. These efforts will kick off very shortly. We do right now anticipate that the business process portion of this program will take us probably in excess of 18 months to really prepare and really make sure we have a full understanding of the impact on our students before we even begin to implement the new student information system. So this will be a multi-year program, and we're just getting underway. Aaron, before I move on to the next project, are there any questions on student experience?
Thanks, John. Yes, I do have one question. With the delays of the improved federal FAFSA system, has enough information been received for financial aid packages to be sent out? And if not, is there a planned date by which we would start sending out financial aid packages?
I'll take that, John. It is not possible to send out packages until we get these data from the federal government for the FAFSAs. Now that we have received the bulk of them and are testing them, we'll be working through them, the process for them. We are intending that by the end of the month to be able to put out financial aid packages for first-time students to the university so that there can be they can go through the acceptance process and by that June 1 deadline that we talked about, and subsequently for continuing students. But it'll be over a course of time because these things will have to be done somewhat sequentially.
Thanks. That's all I've got for now on questions.
Okay. Max, if we can go to the next slide. I want to switch gears again. I want to talk about our constituent relationship management program, which is our Scarlet Journey, as we call it. This is our, again, another multi-year program. Max, next slide, please. So we selected Salesforce, went through an extensive RFP process back in 2019, looked at all the available CRM platforms on the market, and we did select Salesforce as our platform. And the first phase of the program was focused on enrollment management. We've gone through our first 3 years, our first 3 application cycles since implementing this program. It is a multi-year university-wide program. We've been able to really create some really good experiences or really good impactful relationships with our constituents, through a connected understanding of their needs, improvement of interactions, and really tailoring services. Some of the recent accomplishments in this program, again, we're 3 years in. We've just recently implemented Marketing Cloud for the business school and Rutgers Global. We've added new scholarship widgets to the applications portal page, which greatly enhances their intuitive and user-friendly experience. We have updated fast track criteria for the upcoming aid year. And we've also implemented some Marketing Cloud filters to make it easier for folks to report on and assess some of the data within Marketing Cloud. We're working on updating our admission letters to a more automated process by a system called Conga. We're implementing more automations in areas like visa status and our EOF checklist and our alumni application fee waivers. We're also working with our professional schools. Our professional schools, we could not move their full application process into Salesforce because there are some very specific requirements around professional school applications. But we are working to incorporate the data because, again, one of the goals here is to establish a full university-wide and enterprise-wide platform, not just for ease of use, but also for reporting and also for analytics and also for making decisions about many things across the university and the future of the university, that having all that information in one single system is really critical to the success of that. So we're working on incorporating the data from the professional schools within our Salesforce platform. We're currently testing that with the School of Dental Medicine. We plan to launch that within the next week or so. We're already working with the law school to look at the requirements about incorporating their data into our Salesforce platform. And then we will go work with Robert Wood Johnson and the Jersey Medical School, again, looking to integrate them more within our platform, also allowing them the flexibility and the capability to tap into some of the other functions of our system, such as Marketing Cloud and what's called Fontiva, which is an event management system, which is built into our environment. So we're working with the chancellor-led units now. We have teams from across the university working with us. Obviously, as we're getting into our third and fourth cycle here, we had a lot of requests coming in and lots of folks looking and making requests for enhancements and other things they're looking to build into the system. So we're working very closely with the chancellor offices to prioritize those and build in what we can for this upcoming application cycle. And then after that, we will continue to work with them and continue to enhance the system. Next slide, please. Mike also mentioned in the beginning, one of the projects that came about during our CRM Scarlet Journey here was Common Application. Common Application is an application system for first-year undergraduates. It's an online hosted application where students can go in and apply to up to 1,000 colleges and universities in a much more streamlined way. They can put in one application for multiple schools. We launched that back in August of 2023. First time ever Rutgers University has accepted Common Application. So we continue to load in student information in, including prospects and submitted applications. We are working on integration of official high school transcripts right now. That's currently in testing, and we're planning to launch that in early May. That was not available the first year, last year when we went live, but it will be this year. And then we're looking at the annual updates for the upcoming application cycle. Next slide. So if we look at what Common App did for us here at the university, and the number of applications submitted. So academic year 23-24, again, the last year before we launched Common App, 131,000 plus applications were received for undergraduate applications for Rutgers. First year of Common App, we saw a 61% increase in that number. And this year we processed almost 212,000 applications, undergraduate only, for admission into the university. So we can continue to see very positive trends. If you look over on the right-hand side there, you'll see that we got about 34,000 of those applications directly through Salesforce. So Common App is not the only way students can apply. They can still go directly to our Rutgers website and apply through Salesforce, but you'll see that many of our applications this year have now shifted to Common App. We also loaded 70,000 what's called prospective applicants in the Common App. What that means is when a student goes into Common App and they select Rutgers University as a potential school they would like to apply to, and they went and started their application, but for whatever reason did not complete or submit it, we can see that they actually started an application to Rutgers. And Common App gives us that ability to do that, and we can get a report of that. We've taken all that information as well and loaded it into Salesforce, because that is another potential marketing forum and outlet for campuses to go and perhaps contact some of these students and say, hey, we see you started an application, but you didn't finish it. Are you still interested? Would you like to complete that application? So we got another 70,000 potential prospects on top of the submitted applications of 178,000. And then, of course, our graduate schools also had a very good application year. We received over 32,000 graduate school applications this year. So in total, Rutgers has received just over 244,000 applications for admission into Rutgers for academic year 24-25. Next slide, please. As Mike also mentioned, we are also working on phase 2 of our Scarlet Journey right now, which is focused on foundation and alumni relations. This phase of our program is being chiefly led by our foundation partners, to the folks in the foundation and alumni office, working very closely with our implementation partner, and of course, working very closely with PMO and OIT as well. But they are really leading this implementation. They just launched Marketing Cloud Email Concierge, which is a communications for Rutgers Foundation constituents, both alumni and donors from clubs, schools, and units. They launched that in early September. In mid-September, they replaced the current online giving site with what's called Commerce Cloud. And you'll see they even came up with a new website out there, new address, give.rutgersfoundation.org. That launched in mid-September. One of the primary things that was used for was crowdfunding and giving days functionalities, which just implemented this past month. On March 20th and 21st, Rutgers hosted our online Rutgers Giving Days. Utilized Commerce Cloud and Marketing Cloud for that. During that 2-day period, we saw over 48,000 visitors to our new online giving site. We generated over $650,000 from over 2,600 donors in a 2-day period. So a very, very successful launch of that new functionality and online giving campaign. And we're now working on our AffiniQuest implementation, which is our actually primary technology system for gift giving and management. We launched phase 1 for prospect management last October. We're currently in phase 2, focusing on campaigns, gifts, engagement, reporting, and connecting back to our Marketing Cloud environment. So a lot of great work going on in the foundation. If we could flip to the next slide, please. We are live for entry of critical fundraising data like activity reports and prospect management, as well as opportunity management. We're testing for our campaign sprint. Again, with this new technology and these new systems, we are absolutely, focused on the big campaigns and the great plans that the foundation has going forward, and how this new technology can better enable and support those programs. The engagement sprint kicked off earlier in March. And we're now looking at building in more functionality and capabilities around document management, reporting, and analytics, as well as now going back and retesting and enhancing all the connection of all these different components from our Salesforce ecosystem. We've got our constituent relationship management, our Marketing Cloud, our Commerce Cloud, as well as all the other components in our environment. So working with the foundation team to connect all those components. Next slide, please, Max. And then finally, where do we go from here? We've still got a lot of work to do as we do in many of these programs, but we will continue to implement the enhancements for enrollment management in both Salesforce and Common Application. We will continue to work with our partners in Rutgers Foundation to complete phase 2 of their implementation. Later this year, we will kick off discovery for phase 3. The next phase of our program for constituent relationship will be focused on athletics. So we will begin discovery and requirements gathering with our athletics partners later this year. We'll also go back and reassess research and corporate engagement. When the program was initially established about 5 years ago, there were actually 2 distinct phases for these areas. But a lot of this work, we've been able to begin and satisfy a lot of requirements as part of our foundation implementation. So again, our foundation partners, working closely with the Office for Research, have really been able to identify some key requirements for research communication and collaboration, as well as our corporate engagement partners, that they were able to build into their implementation. And we're already delivering those services ahead of schedule. So we will go back and look and see if there's more work to do there, but a lot of those requirements we were able to meet early. Again, and great thanks to our foundation colleagues and partners working on those programs. And then we will continue to evolve our roadmap and see where else our CRM program can help the university. And finally, this deck will be made available after the program today. This page you can go to. These are all live links here. There are multiple websites you can go to get more information. Our Cornerstone website will give you updates on all the projects. You'll see 4 individual project websites there dedicated to specific projects that we've spoken about today. And then you can always visit the Project Management Office website through UFA. With that, Mike, I'll turn it back to you. Mike's still with us.
Erin's got you.
Mike, yeah, so Mike dropped off and should be back on momentarily, John, so we can.
Yeah, so we can continue here. You know, again, we will continue to work with all of our stakeholders and constituents across the university. I mean, our success is heavily dependent upon collaboration, around communication, around engagement, working in close partnership with you all. We will continue to host forums like today. There are monthly newsletters that are going out. I just showed you the websites that we have that get regular updates, the change networks that we spoke about. So we will continue to share information and updates as best we can across the university. But please don't hesitate to reach out to the project management office if you or any of your colleagues need any further information on any of these projects. So Aaron, any more questions, please?
Yes. So, John, there are two questions related to W-2s. Will the 2024 W-2 forms be generated by the present system? And do you anticipate that the process for updating deductions will change for W-2 and contribution amounts for 403Bs? So as you think about that HRP, what's the impact on W-2s?
So yes, the 2024 W-2s will come out of the current system, because that's where payroll is processed. So the W-2s will still come out of PeopleSoft for 2024. And as far as the deductions, we're moving everything over. There will be more self-service. There will be more changes coming. We're also waiting to see what the changes coming out of the benefits program and the tax program are as we get closer to the end of this year. So really, right now, the greatest impact in that area, we believe, will be just it should be simpler. You'll be able to do things through more self-service and much more automated fashion than we do today. But again, that's still under review, waiting for the requirement.
Thank you.
Next question.
We've also received some questions about time management in the new systems.
Yes.
What will the new time management system consist of to track and pay staff for hours worked? And will students still use a web clock to punch in and out?
So as I said earlier, there are multiple timekeeping systems across the university right now, where we're working with all the various stakeholders that use these systems. The goal going forward, as we go live and move into the new Oracle environment in January, is that we will have two timekeeping systems at the university. One will be online time and labor through Oracle Human Capital Cloud Management. The second will be Kronos. Kronos is a system that many units at the university currently use today. It is a good system. It helps a lot, especially with some of our more complex timekeeping areas. And clock management, et cetera. You mentioned web clocks, et cetera. So there will be options between Oracle and Kronos. We are trying to move away from all other timekeeping systems, again, to become more consistent. Right now, what the team is working on is a requirements matrix that we can work with all the units to understand which system they should be moving to in the new environment.
And one follow-up on that, do you anticipate that the Kronos system will communicate directly, or do you know yet whether it will be a more manual process?
No, it'll be integrated. It'll be directly integrated with our Oracle system.
Thank you. There are also a couple of questions related to the ECRT, the effort reporting certification. What will be done to better integrate payroll with other systems such as the ECCRT? I've been seeing the draft ECCRT reports fail to correctly allocate grant expenditures that are correctly reported in payroll is one of those questions.
Okay, so I can talk a little bit about the effort certification system as it is today. We did assess and we did analyze the possibility of moving the entire process into the new Oracle system. However, there were some requirements within that process that we were not able to satisfy within the Oracle HCM system. So right now, the PMO is working with the Office for Research. The current effort certification system, the current ECC system will remain. The process will continue to run through that. What we are working with the Office for Research on, and Huron, who actually created that ECC system, is working on the integrations to more directly integrate that information. So things like you're talking about data, there's a lot of manual entries in some of these processes now. We're looking to do away with them and automate all that and more directly tie the payroll distribution from Oracle payroll directly to the effort certification system. We're also working very closely with our implementation partners on labor distribution, which should also resolve part of the last part of your question there about the erroneous entries on how these things are hitting projects. So between our Oracle Financial Cloud, which is where all of our general ledger access happens, but also our Oracle Project and Portfolio Management, which is our subledger where all the projects are stored. We are working on direct integration and testing all those distribution and payroll costing items right now.
Thank you. Not sure if this is for John or Vivian, but we have received questions related to the tuition remission. Do you anticipate any impact to the employee tuition remission process? For example, determining eligibility to credit remission to the employee's term bill?
So we're looking at ways in which to streamline that process, possibly more than it already is. A few years ago, we went through the process of streamlining, but we've made no determinations yet at this time.
Thanks, Vivian. For the new SAP Concur system, will the system communicate with Oracle in regards to changes to finance approvers? So if
Yes.
a request to change the finance approver was submitted, will SAP Concur automatically receive that information?
Yes, we are integrating the SAP system with Oracle, and that's one of the processes we're looking at right now is to make sure that all updates are done automatically so you don't have to do them twice.
Thank you. I've also received questions about other systems. Can you share any information you might have on the impact for ARS or the impact to EPBCS? And
Okay,
can you tell us what those acronyms stand for?
ARS is our absence reporting system, current one, that will be going away. That will all move to Oracle HCM. And there will be self-service absence reporting in the new system. Again, more information and training on that coming in the coming months here. EPBCS is our enterprise planning cash budgeting system. It's part of our EPM system. It's part of our suite of modules. For those of you not familiar with the acronyms, long story short, EPM is basically where our budgeting happens. It is a suite of modules within the Oracle environment that we've implemented, where all of our budgeting happens. This will be completely and totally integrated with EPM. So you will see a lot more information about how that's going to work. This is also going to much closely tie positions at the university between human resources and the budget, as well as financial reporting. So this will be fully integrated with EPBCS, as well as the rest of our EPM environment and our budgeting. We are working very closely with David Moore in his office on that now.
Thank you, John. Will the units still have access to payroll reports and SWRJ functionality?
So that's two different things there. The payroll reports, yes. We are looking at how we're going to do that in our reporting environment. My OIT partners are looking at that. So things like compensation history and payroll reporting, yes, will still be available. SWRJ. SWRJ right now is a very complex process. It's a risk-laden process. It's a manual process. It is definitely something that we're looking to make improvements upon moving forward. It will be a two-step process, but we will ultimately be moving the entire SWRJ process into Oracle, into HCM. On day one, we will have enhanced data integrations and data feeds. The actual process itself will stay in the current portal where it is today. Day two, We will be moving that into Oracle. It will be a custom-built solution that will be directly integrated and tied to HCM. We just won't have that complete by January 1st. But that will be something going forward where that entire process and that third-party portal where it resides today will completely go away. And this will all be done directly in Oracle HCM, where it can be tied directly to the payroll distribution reports, thereby getting rid of the manual Excel spreadsheets. And right now, I believe in the process, especially when it comes to projects, there are 3 different steps in that process that are manual. Those will all be automated.
Thank you. Following up on your explanation just then, can you speak a little bit about how you anticipate previous systems will be accessed once the new systems go live? So will people still be able to access whatever they use now?
Depends on the system and the data you're talking about. All data, well, I'll say all current payroll data out of PeopleSoft will be archived and fully available. It depends on if you're talking about different type of system or different data. You can reach out to me and I can work with you. But our goal is to not get rid of any data or any current accesses. This is about improving things. So yes, right now, all critical data and all primary university-wide system data will still be available.
Thank you. Vivian, to kick off the next one, we've received a couple of questions related to the Kronos conversation. Do you anticipate in future that all staff will be required to clock in and clock out? And do we anticipate that all staff will self-report their own absences?
So currently, in accordance with the Fair Labor Standards Act and Department of Labor requirement, non-exempt staff should be clocking in and out, or we should be reporting their time in and out. If the question relates to an actual, standing at a time clock and swiping your card or something like that, in some areas that will be necessary, and in fact is the practice, and in other areas it may not, especially for those eligible for flexible work arrangements. And then what was the second part of the question?
So it was clocking in and out, which you've answered, and then the other was about self-reporting absences.
So I know that John mentioned earlier that there would be self-reporting absences. I'm thinking that's still a conversation for us to have. So that decision has not yet been made.
We are definitely still looking at approval workflows on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. This is a fun one. What has been the biggest challenge with the payroll transition and upgrades to date? And if you can share, how have you overcome it, or how are you working towards overcoming those challenges?
From my perspective,
I was going to say, you want me to kick that off, or do you want to? Because we have several. Oh, so from an HR perspective, I can say we talk a lot about simplification, because one of the greatest challenges is deconstructing the complexity that is Rutgers and trying to simplify those processes and create uniformity, while at the same time being sensitive to and responsive to departmental needs. So departments may have unique processes for a good reason, but in order to get to a better place and become more efficient and be able to maximize the utilization of the system, we'll have to make difficult decisions. And unraveling the complexities of Rutgers is one of the challenges we have. But as I stated earlier, we are working with our stakeholders to make key decisions together to ensure that we're moving forward together and there's not a sense of being a victim of decisions. So some of those decisions will be difficult, but we will be moving forward together as a community.
I would just say what Vivian said, I completely agree with it. It's the complexity and the amount of information that we're looking at here. As far as how we're overcoming that, I think Vivian's last comment there is what we're doing, and that is the reach out. We are truly working with hundreds of people every day, literally. We have meetings with 250 people sometimes joining in, but it's about the engagement and the collaboration. We want to invite folks to be part of the decision-making process. We want folks to be heard and listened to. Our ask on the other side is then be engaged, be fully engaged. Come join the meeting, read the information, get the updates, work with us, give us an opportunity to partner with you. And that's the greatest challenge, is finding time for everyone to do that, because we are on a tight schedule here and there's a lot to do. So we understand we're asking a lot of folks, but you know, there's a reason why. So the continued engagement from everyone is what's going to lead us through those challenges.
Thanks to you both. Following up on that continued engagement, if there are specific decisions made that impact or affect certain departments, is there someone we can speak to regarding necessary adjustments, and who would be the contact person? Or can you walk us through how we can find the right points of contact to talk to?
So I would say the primary points of contact when we talk about within the units and departments and impacts are folks who serve on our governance committees. So we do have an advisory council, we have a steering committee, we have an executive committee that has representation from all chancellor-led units as well as all primary central offices. Those committee listings can be found on the project website. And if ever in doubt, contact PMO directly. You can send an email directly to the PMO or to one of our specified project addresses. If you're not sure who to talk to or what impacts may be impacting your area, you're always welcome to reach out to us directly. But your first point of contact would be to check the governance lists and see who from your area is represented on those teams.
Thank you.
I'd like to stress looking up the list in the governance area, because the teams that have been working on these processes are just so knowledgeable, and they have been very, very thoughtful about bringing forward unique circumstances and circumstances that are impactful to the unit. So you want to check with them first to ensure. They may already have brought it up, they may have already had conversations, and they may already have responses to you. So I would encourage those conversations, just so that you're connected within your area and you know how things are progressing.
Thanks, Vivian. Will payroll reports be integrated into the Oracle system so that faculty and research coordinators who are responsible for grants can get reports at the per employee level on payroll expenditures without having to ask for special reports? So there's more detail in the question, but that's the overarching bulk of the question is about access to reports at the appropriate level of detail.
Yeah, so as far as the appropriate level of detail, we are working closely with Office for Research, as well as getting a lot of feedback from the constituents and stakeholders from the units. A lot of them do work directly with research. So right now we're developing the report libraries, all the requirements for reports. So those will be made available, but you know, for anything where data is available in the system, which the data you're talking about will be available. If they're not standard reports built in initially, you can reach out to us. We can talk to you about those. There will also be other ways to pull that data. But the idea here is that as long as the data is available in the system, you will have access and be able to report off it without having to put in a special request.
Great, thank you. For the HCM data, you may have already answered this. Will the data roll over to the new system?
Some data will, yes. And that's going to be based on requirements about how far back we have to go. We are not going to pull, I believe the PeopleSoft system implementation is 12 or 13 years ago at this point. We're not going to pull. We did assess it. We did look at it. I will tell you it's over 14 million records sitting there in PeopleSoft. We don't need all those in HCM. They will still be available for folks to go pull if they need to report off of or view that information, but it will not all be moved into Oracle. We will only be pulling forward the amount of data necessary. For example, we have to keep at least 2 years for New Jersey FMLA, and there's some other requirements there. So combination of both. We will be pulling forward what we need to successfully implement the new system. The rest will be made available in the data warehouse for historical review.
Great, thank you. Right now, since it appears that the rocks system is going to happen in the next phase, if that's accurate, when do you anticipate that rocks would be impacted?
I mean, ultimately, when we would do anything with that system, we can't give an exact timeline right now. That is part of what we will determine during requirements gathering when we start phase 2. So we know ultimately it is something we want to address and make better. But we haven't even started the requirements on that until we start phase 2.
Okay, and will everyone have access to the new system for viewing purposes during the initial rollout? And I'm not sure which system this refers to. So if you could walk us through the various systems, how do you anticipate the access will play out during the rollout phase?
I mean, these enterprise-wide systems, especially when you're talking about a Oracle HCM where there's human resources and payroll, everyone will have access, just as you do on PeopleSoft today. We're required to give you access so you can get to your employment information. Other systems, it depends on your role at the university.
And just to clarify, everyone, as John indicated, will have access to self-service for their own information. And then we will go through the process, I think he referenced earlier, the security access process to determine who needs access to what, but that should all be live when we go live.
Currently, we have just one more question. For the various projects in the Cornerstone portfolio, where would an individual find the governance list? Should they go to the Cornerstone primary site, or do they need to be working at a project level?
The governance lists are at on the project websites. If you are looking for governance information or any additional information on stakeholders and contacts that you do not find on the website, you can contact my office directly. We'll be happy to share it.
Thank you, John. And I'll also put the Cornerstone projects page into the chat. That is the last question received to date.
Thank you all very much. Is Mike back?
You should be back on, yes. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I am. So I want to thank John and Vivian for their thorough presentations and also reviewing these questions for you. We will post information, including the recording for this on the project website. I want to thank Aaron for hosting and for managing the question piece. I want to thank all of you for attending. The contact information or the website information is all available to you there, and will be sent out later on. So thanks everybody, and